When Tom and Jerry debuted in 1940, cat and mouse cartoons were already considered old-fashioned. Thankfully, the legendary animation team of William Hanna and Joseph Barbera managed to convince their bosses at MGM to take a chance on what was yet another theatrical short about a frisky feline chasing a cute rodent. I'm Adrian with channel Frederator, and today we're talking about the most Oscar-lauded animated duo of all time. That's right, Tom and Jerry have won more Academy Awards than any other cartoon team. Eat your heart out, Mickey and Minnie. This is Then vs. Now, Tom and Jerry. Creating the perfect pair. To bring Tom and Jerry together, it took the union of another classic pair, Hanna and Barbera. This writing-directing team, who would go on to create the Flintstones, Yogi Bear, and Scooby-Doo, were working at MGM's fledgling cartoon studio during the 1940s. It all began with a one-reel theatrical short, Puss Gets the Boot, starring Jasper, Cat, and a mouse named Jinx. At the time, the studio was less than enthused about following in the familiar cat and mouse cartoon formula. In response, Hanna and Barbera almost made it about a dog and a fox, but were saved by an Academy Award nomination and the strong audience reaction. Of course, dispensing of the Jasper and Jinx moniker was the first major change. An intra-studio contest with a $50 prize led to the creation of Tom and Jerry, a name that was then most familiar as a warm eggnog cocktail. Animator John Carr came up with the names, which were first introduced in the Midnight Snack in 1941. Hanna and Barbera worked on Tom and Jerry until the closing of the MGM cartoon studio in 1958. The secret weapon throughout the show version was composer Scott Bradley, who scored all of the original shorts. His mix of jazz and classical music was a vital part of conveying emotions for characters who rarely talked. In the newest 2014 revival, there are 3 composers who have been used throughout the run, as opposed to just one. John Van Tongeren in 36 episodes, David Rickard for 26 episodes, and Vivek Madala for 24 episodes. Since the end of the original series, Tom and Jerry has been revived many times by different studios and animation teams. The series jumped from various MGM subsidiaries before heading to the Hanna-Barbera studio for TV, and finally landing at Warner Brothers Animation, the studio famous for producing the Looney Tunes characters. Tom and Jerry's life as Warner Brothers cartoons began in 2002 with their first of 13 direct-to-video feature films. While the initial release actually had Hanna and Barbera as producers, these movies eventually turned into cash grabs with silly crossover themes. Some of the most egregious examples include Tom and Jerry and the Wizard of Oz, Tom and Jerry Meet Sherlock Holmes, and Tom and Jerry, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, especially that last one. I can't believe that's real. The duo's current TV series, The Tom and Jerry Show, is an attempt to regain the spirit of the original shorts. Adjusting the formula. Tom and Jerry settled into a regular formula right off the bat. This basically involved Tom going to great lengths to catch and inflict harm on Jerry. Usually, the smaller but quicker Jerry finds a way to outsmart his enemies. By the end of the short, Tom ends up being on the wrong end of most of the carnage. Many of the classic episodes featured minimal plot. They're mostly a series of humorous gags strung together. Barbera developed the stories while Hanna oversaw the animation, and Barbera would eventually build upon the standard setup. Tom's owner or other animals would enter the mix to add another dynamic to the game of cat and mouse. In some shorts, Tom would be trying to impress a female cat or simply have a good time until Jerry ruins the fun. The Tom and Jerry Show, which has run on Cartoon Network since 2014, was deliberately molded on the sensibility of the Hanna-Barbera theatrical releases. Most of the 11-minute shorts involve the title duo plotting against each other. Like in the old series, Tom and Jerry are pretty much mute. The only sounds they make are howls of pain after getting hurt. Even Tom's classic is faithfully reproduced in the new series. Many of the classic side characters such as Spike, Quacker, and Tyke are worked into the new storylines. However, Spike, the bulldog who always has it out for Tom, plays a much bigger role in the new show. He gets most of the lines and is often the one who furthers the plot. In interviews, executive producer Sam Register said he wanted the new show to bring the characters into a more contemporary world. This means making the surroundings more modern and including technology from the 21st century. The pet's new owners, Rick and Ginger, are also much more of today's era in that they're generally nice to animals. The first human character from the original series was Mammy Two Shoes, an offensive portrayal of a housemaid who had a penchant for walloping Tom with a broom. New settings and new characters. While the average suburban home makes the perfect Tom and Jerry setting, even Hanna and Barbera began taking their characters out of the living room by year 3 of the series. Some of the most beloved episodes involve Tom and Jerry in a completely different time and place. Take the 1952 Academy Award-winning short, The Two Musketeers, for example. This fan favorite is set during the sword-wielding days of 17th century France. Even though Tom gets the guillotine at the end, MGM made 3 Musketeers sequels. Other classic shorts referenced famous stories like Robin Hood, featured holiday themes, or involved the duo interacting with guest characters. Hanna and Barbera completely shunned any chasing in 1945's Mouse in Manhattan, which centered on Jerry taking a trip to the big city. By the end of the original series, most of the stories took Tom and Jerry out of the house or involved multiple secondary characters. The Tom and Jerry Show seems to pick up where the original Hanna-Barbera series left off in the 1950s. Many episodes have updated settings and tend to focus on side characters. In a strange reversal of fortunes, we see Spike rather than Tom get kicked out of the house at the end of the first show. In addition to the plots revolving around the typical cat and mouse antics, the Tom and Jerry Show features episodes where the title character characters are private eyes. These shorts, in which the duo ran an agency called the Cat and Mouse Detectives, features a film noir sensibility complete with narration and shadowy artwork. Tom and Jerry usually team up to solve a mystery involving recurring characters like Toodles Galore or Butch Cat. There are also standalone shorts in which Jerry lives in a lab with his rat friend Napoleon, as well as plots that involve two witches named Beatty and Hildy. That being said, most of the fast-paced action is based on the original Cat and Mouse rivalry. After all, the reboot was created by Bob Jakes, an animator who got his start with another slapstick cartoon duo, Ren and Stimpy. Changing animation. The most obvious difference between the classic Tom and Jerry series and the modern incarnation is the actual animation. Jakes and company may have been after an artwork style that evokes the original's bright colors and fast movements, but the new show looks completely different. This is mostly due to the current series using flash animation, a relatively low-cost digital production method used in many modern shows. The result is a much more computer-based look with very crisp lines and little shading or shadows. Classic gags like wild takes and eye pops don't have quite the same effect when they're animated on a computer. The original MGM cartoons were created via cell animation, a process that requires drawing every frame by hand. Since Hanna-Barbera used 24 frames a second, a typical 7-minute Tom and Jerry cartoon involved more than 10,000 pictures. The process was laborious, but the final releases looked fantastic. Most industry buffs and fans agree. Tom and Jerry had some of the finest animation of its day. Considering the time and cost of traditional animation, it's no surprise that the Tom and Jerry show has embraced the more feasible Adobe Flash approach. The new animators churned out more shorts in 2 seasons than what the MGM team released in the entire original run, an evolving cat and mouse. While Tom and Jerry have never really aged, their looks have evolved over the past 7 decades. Tom has particularly gone through some striking stylistic changes at the hands of animators. In the 1940 debut, he had a round face and some unruly fur. Many of the classic visual traits were already there: blue-gray coat, yellow eyes, and a white tip on his tail. However, the early Tom acted more like a real cat and had a thick patch of white fur between his droopy eyes. By the late 40s, Hanna-Barbera streamlined his look, adding some prominent eyebrows and giving him more human-like traits. This Tom was more likely to stand on his 2 legs and use his paws like hands. Of course, this also made it easier for him to smash a mouse with a club. In comparison, Jerry has changed very little since his debut. He was designed from the very beginning to be a cute comedic foil who enjoys inflicting pain on Tom when it's deserved. Aside from a brief stint wearing a red bow tie in the 70s TV series, he's pretty much remained the same brown mouse throughout. In the Tom and Jerry show, the animators based their character designs off the classic Hanna-Barbera renderings. However, the flash animation leads to an even more streamlined look with lots of bold, solid colors. The animators did go through a lot of effort to bring Tom and Jerry's exaggerated facial expressions into the digital realm. From theater to TV, Tom and Jerry were created in a day when most cartoons were shorts that were shown alongside feature films at movie houses. All the shorts had to fit into one reel, which could hold about 10 minutes of film. At the end of the 1950s, animation studios were no longer making enough money to justify creating new shorts. When MGM closed its animation division in 1958, thus ending the original run of Tom and Jerry, Hanna-Barbera already had their own studio primed to bring cartoons to TV. However, Tom and Jerry's life in the movies wasn't over. MGM commissioned Prague-based director Gene Deitch to bring back the series in 1961. This oft-forgotten era of Tom and Jerry led to some pretty bizarre theatrical shorts. Perhaps it was due to the low production values, or to Deitch using the Eastern European crew that wasn't familiar with Tom and Jerry, but this era feels like a completely different series. The Deitch shorts were marred by reverb-heavy sound effects, quirky artwork, and weird plot lines. For example, in Mouse into Space, Jerry takes a rocket ship to the moon to escape Tom's tormenting. Distraught and lonely over the loss of his friend, Tom actually turns to booze. The Deitch era also featured a sadistic middle-aged man as Tom's owner. This ill-tempered grouch seems to take a cruel joy out of pummeling his pet. MGM decided to step up its game in 1962 and hire legendary director Chuck Jones to take over Tom and Jerry. As the creative force behind many Warner Brothers cartoons, Jones brought a Looney Tunes sensibility to the series. Many of his Tom and Jerry shorts are reminiscent of his old Roadrunner Coyote releases. While these shorts were popular, Jones later admitted that he couldn't handle the characters as well as Hanna-Barbera did. A few years before the MGM animation studio closed again in 1967, Tom and Jerry finally made the transition to television. The old shorts played on Saturday mornings, and Hanna-Barbera even introduced a new Tom and Jerry TV show in 1975. Various TV incarnations of Tom and Jerry popped up throughout the 80s and 90s. This included the Childtoon series Tom and Jerry Kids. The most recent 2014 version launched in Canada on Teletoon in March 2014 and began airing in the US on Cartoon Network in April 2014. In March 2017, Time Warner's Turner and Warner Brothers announced the launch of their Boomerang streaming service, which would have ad-free cartoon episodes available, including, of course, the Tom and Jerry show. Who knew this cat and mouse from the 40s would make it to the internet? Who would have thunk it? Appeasing the censors. The side effect of bringing Tom and Jerry to TV was the inevitable complaints from parent groups. Let's face it, Tom and Jerry were in some of the most violent cartoons of animation's golden age. Who could be surprised that some people took issue with a cat and mouse attacking each other with bombs, knives, and shotguns? The level of mayhem was most famously spoofed by The Simpsons cartoon within a cartoon, The Itchy and Scratchy Show. When Tom and Jerry episodes were created for television, the violence was toned down considerably. In the 1970s Hanna-Barbera show, the cat and mouse were suddenly pals who traveled the the world and got into adventures. There were always undertones of friendship between the two, but removing the chase element alienated many fans. Like it or not, over-the-top consequence-free violence is a major source of humor for Tom and Jerry. The Tom and Jerry show strikes a balance between the two extremes. While the current episodes feature plenty of fast-paced action and physical humor, the violence is no longer excessive. Don't expect to see Tom brandishing firearms in any of the future episodes. Also gone, the occasional scenes of characters enjoying cigars or getting drunk. However, the producers deemed punching, strangulation, and grenades to be fair game, so have fun with that. The fans of today. Jakes' intention with the Tom and Jerry show was to carry the legacy of the original series to a new generation of fans. Many younger viewers are simply unaware of the impact that Tom and Jerry had on generations of animators. The new show updates the original premise and presents a classic cat chases mouse story to viewers who may not otherwise have been interested in watching cartoons from the late 1940s. The Tom and Jerry show also aims to overtake the mantle previously held by the various programs and other releases since the original series ended. As mentioned earlier, since the year 2000, there have been 13 straight-to-video Tom and Jerry movies, most of which were geared towards family viewing, and weren't as true to the original. Most diehard fans also try to forget about the one theatrical film, Tom and Jerry the Movie. This poorly reviewed film from 1992 actually included spoken dialogue between the title characters. At the very least, the Tom and Jerry show brings the duo back to their familiar formula. Though the purists may have a hard time taking in the new computer animation, those who truly love the characters will be happy to see their favorite cartoon duo back in action and living on. There you have it, 7 decades of cartoon evolution. Thanks for watching Then vs. Now Tom and Jerry. Are you a Tom or a Jerry? Comment down below and let us know. Don't forget to click that bell icon to become part of the notification squad. We have videos dropping every day, so make sure to subscribe. And remember, Frederator loves you.